Daf Yomi, tractate Chullin, page 42a, top of the page, with the words Mahu Detema. Mahu Detema misa diolda kolavele kamashmelon marapoli apihil. The Gemara answers, lest you say, if it is so that his wife gave birth, it would have generated publicity and been common knowledge. Therefore, one might conclude that the slaughter is valid, even if he declared that the slaughter is for the sake of the burnt offering of his wife after childbirth, as in fact she did not give birth. To counter this, Rabbi Elazar teaches us that the slaughter is not valid. Say that his wife miscarried and is liable to bring an offering, but it is not common knowledge because the baby was not born alive. Hadran aloch hashoichet. May we return to you, Ashoichet, and we move on to the next parak. Elu trefois. Zog the heilige Mishne. Elu trefois pa beheimo. Nikuvas haveshet besukas agargeres. Nikav krum shel moach. Nikav alev leves al chalalo. Nishbara hashidra v'nifsak achut shela. Nita lakabe v'lo nishtaer hemenu klum. The Mishnah says these wounds constitute trephot in an animal, rendering them prohibited for consumption. A perforated gullet, where the perforation goes through the wall of the gullet, or a cut windpipe. If the membrane of the brain. Remember the song many years ago. Saying the membrane, reminded me of that. If the membrane of the brain was perforated, or if the heart was perforated to its chamber, if the spinal column was broken, and its cord was cut, if the liver was removed, and nothing remained of it, any of these render an animal a trefa. Horayo shinik v'oy shechosro b'shimon omer, ad shetiknakev lebet hasimponos, nikva keva nikva moro, nikvu hadakin hakores, Hakores, Hapnimis, Shenikra Rov Hachitzona. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Agadoy Letova Verdanon, Berua Hamases, Ubesakois, Shenikra Chutz. Additionally, a lung that was perforated or that was missing a piece renders the animal a treifa. Rabbi Shimon says it is not a treifa unless it is perforated through to the bronchi. If the abomasum, I'm not sure what that is, if the abomasum was perforated, or the gallbladder was perforated, or the small intestines were perforated, it is a treifa. It is also treifa in a case where the internal rumen was perforated, or where the majority of the external rumen was torn. Yehuda says, for a large animal, a tear of one hand breadth renders it a treifa, while for a small animal it is a treifa only if the majority is torn. And it is a treifa where the omasum, in brackets they put hemses, that helps. Omasum, in brackets it's hemses. Or the reticulum was perforated to the outside, meaning to the abdominal cavity, but not if the perforation was between the two. Nafla minagag, nishtabro roiv tzaloiseo, uderus hazev, udrusas hazev, Rav Yehuda Omer, udrusas hazev bedako, udrusas harev begaso, udrusas harev behoiv hadak, udrusas hagaz behoiv hagas, zeklal kol shein kamoiho, chayat treifo. Likewise, if an animal fell from the roof, or if the majority of its ribs were fractured, poor thing, or if it was clawed by a wolf, again, poor thing, it is a treifa. Yehuda says, if it was clawed by a wolf in the case of a small animal, meaning a sheep or a goat, or clawed by a lion in the case of a large animal, like cattle, or if it was clawed by a hawk in the case of a small bird, or if it was clawed by a large bird of prey. In the case of a large bird, then it is a treifa. This is the principle. Any animal that was injured such that an animal in a similar condition could not live for an extended period is a treifa, the consumption of which is forbidden by Torah law. The Gemara says, now we're starting the Talmud here. Zog the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Remez l'teichu minayin minayin, minayin, ubasor abasadeh treifa lo yisachelu, el remez l'teichu she'enu chai minayin minayin. Diktoni Sefer Zeh Klal, Kol She'en K'mo Chaya Treifa, Miklal de Treifa Eno Chaya Min Holon. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says, where is there an allusion in the Torah to the prohibition of treifa? The Gemara interjects, where is there an allusion? Like, what are you asking that for? Doesn't the Torah state explicitly? Why do you need an allusion when it says, you shall not eat any flesh that is torn of animals, treifa, in the field? Exodus 22:13. Rather, the question is, where is there an allusion in the Torah to the principle that a treifa cannot live? Das ist andere Sache. As the Mishnah teaches in the last clause, this is the principle. Any animal that was injured such that an animal in a similar condition could not live for an extended period as a treifa, one learns by inference that a treifa cannot live. If so, from where do we derive this? Dichsiv. It is derived from a verse as it is written, these are the living things which you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth. Leviticus 11:2. The verse indicates that you made a living animal, meaning one that can survive, but you may not eat an animal that is not living, meaning one that cannot survive. One learns by inference that a treifa cannot live. The Gemara asks, and according to the one who says that a treifa can live, where does he derive this? The Gemara responds, he derives it from the same verse. These are the living things which you may eat among all the animals. These indicates that you may eat only these living things, but you may not eat other living things, meaning treifot. One learns by inference that a treifa can live. V'idachai zois mai avidlei. The Tana Devei Shmuel. The Tana Devei Shmuel is a chai shedochlu melam shutaf eschei kodesh baruch hu mikol min umin. The Gemara asks, and according to the other opinion that a treifa cannot live, what does he do with this word, these? The Gemara responds, he requires it for that which the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught. As the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught, that the verse, these are the living things which you may eat, teaches that the Holy One, blessed be He, seized one of each and every species of animal, and showed it to Moses, and said to him, these you may eat, and these you may not eat. And according the Gemara objects, but the other opinion also requires the word these for that which the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught. The Gemara replies, yes, indeed it is so. Rather, from where does he derive the principle that a treifa can live? He derives it from the other brayta that the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught. As the school of Rabbi Yishmael taught, the verse states, to make a difference between the living thing that may be eaten and the living thing that may not be eaten. Leviticus 11:47. These living things that may not be eaten are the 18 treifot that were stated to Moses at Sinai and enumerated in the Mishnah. The verse then makes reference to a treifa as a living thing. Pesuleka Hayika bis Sige Samach Gimel Reish. What's that? Bisiger Bishav Shmaita. So the The Gemara questions the Braita, and are there no more cases of treifot? But aren't there more cases cited in the Mishnah, another Braitot, for which the monarch is given, Bet Samach Gimel Resh, Bisager? And aren't there 7 additional halachot, meaning cases of treifot, Tapai Amoraim? Okay, that's the end of 42a. We'll stop here. Continue with 42b.